did. They just have a strong sense of what they want, right? Another PVZ in the bottom right, we have Psystorm's Silky. And in the top left, there's the Blue Protoss. We have Root DisK. Actually, two of the most... How to put this? The teams that represent most of North America, I would say. They represent North America the most. That's a better way to put it. Very old, established teams. So this is going to be a much tougher series for DisK. He looked very strong against his last Zerg opponent, but we didn't know much about Disturbed, or again, Ghostly Swarm on the bracket. Beating Drunken Boy is a bit of testimony, but not a whole lot, because we really don't know how Drunken Boy was playing, we don't know what the games were, and Drunken Boy definitely is one of those guys that's just like, if he showed up to a tournament and actually had not been playing for a year, I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense, you know? And if you showed up for a tournament and was like, I've been playing really hard and a lot for the past 2 months, it'd be like, oh yeah, okay. Like, I don't know where he's at. So it was something, but Silky, I think, is another beast. Silky actually kind of has taken the crown away from Jon Snow as the most promising North American Zerg, up and coming Zerg. Obviously, before anyone says Scarlet, I get you. You know what I'm talking about, guys. And it just is like, I think he is one of the guys who is now expected to win these types of qualifiers, again, the region-locked qualifiers. So if DisK beats Silky, I mean, yeah, I'd respect that for sure. Of course, I don't know too much about the North American scene, is like how much they play against each other. Some of these guys, obviously, they do play on different servers, getting better training. Elsewhere, sometimes they also are around each other's skill level, so I'm sure they ladder face each other a lot, but quick check on the actual tournament results. As much as I've grown to really respect Silky, okay, what is going on here? Yeah, there we go. I don't know enough to say, like, okay, well, he obviously always beats this guy. There we go. Wow, they just do not play that often. Okay, so at least I was kind of right about that. My gut, my totally random gut instinct guess was correct, that they don't play that often. The NA Apprentice, which is a really cool tournament, specifically designed for people like these players. DisK got 0-3'd by Silky, which actually, again, goes with what I'm saying. So I'm just going to pretend that I knew exactly what I was talking about, and I'm super cool, and I pay attention to all the tournaments that have ever existed, and never disagree with me. All right, guys? Let's go with that. Nah, but seriously, it does go along with my idea of NA's current narrative. We'll put it that way. Which is Silky's looking really good. This is the round of 16, so the next match here is going to be the qualifying match. These guys are really, really close. There is no lower bracket, but obviously top 4 making it through is actually pretty, I don't want to say easy, right? Because of course it depends on your bracket, but it gives a lot of chances, I would say. Literally just the numbers here. Instead of being top 2 or top 3, you got top 4. And there are 3 qualification tournaments. So, decent chance for either one of these guys to get through if they don't get through today. And they only have to play for like 2 hours if they're, snappy about it. So that's always nice. That's always cool. Just say, I suppose you're at an impasse. I like the way you guys are giving me ways to get out of an argument. Can we agree to disagree on facts, though? No, but, like, if someone is disagreeing with you holding up a scientific, like, peer-reviewed study that 2 + 2 = 4, then you are just trying to be polite and, not discuss stupid things, right? Like, if your main concern is having a continued discussion with someone who disagrees that 2 + 2 = 4, then you have other problems. And I assume you're talking more about, like, flat earthers or something, but that's the same thing for me, dude. Someone was like, the earth is flat, and I was like, well, here's scientific evidence. And they were like, nope, still is. I'd be like, okay. Guess we just won't have much to talk about anymore. Bye. DisK going for a 5 adept this time, not 4 adepts like the last time I saw 2 oracles, and 2 oracles attack. Sometimes they split them up, it works well, sometimes all together it works well. In this case, Silky was totally prepared for the combined attack, the combo attack. That was all the oracles and all the adepts. Key defense against this, like a lot of queens. Who'd have thunk it? Queens are the answer to anything. It's like, oh my god, earlier today someone brought up the Parks and Rec meme. Hellbat all in, queens. Adept all in, queens. Warp Prism Micro, queens. Battle Cruisers, believe it or not, queens. Your Dragon not being here for any player info was inconvenience. Well, it's fine, I got it. I did it correctly anyways. I actually asked if he wanted to cast, it's just that he has real life job. So he can't be available all the time. Ugh, imagine having like a real life person job. Like not just talk about video games your entire life. Ugh, imagine that. Nice little wall here. We're on Death Aura, which is a medium-sized map actually. Apparently some players said that it's a faster map because of the acceleration zones. It's really not. It's got the same rush distance as oh my god, I can't remember the name of it. Oh my god. It's a golden tile set, but it is not Golden Wall. Not Purity Industry. Oh my god, it's like the most played map ever, and why am I forgetting the name of it right now? Oh, okay. I've just completely forgotten the name of one of the most common played maps. It's still in the map pool. It's fine. I swear I didn't have anything to drink. I just cannot think right now. Oh my god. Point is, what I was trying to say is that it's it seems to be a perfectly normal map actually. It's got a cool, you know, little tile set here. It's very dark and moody. And it's also got acceleration zones, but these things haven't actually really shown us a lot of, like, crazy differences, potentials. When there were inhibitor zones on that one other map that we had a year ago at this point, that felt like the worst if you had a player on that shit. Like, oh my god, no. But haven't seen many battles revolve around this, and haven't seen many attacks where I was like, well, if only the acceleration zone wasn't there, or something like that. I think that the Wardy and I agreed upon was that if these rocks are broken down, it gets to be a kind of a short map, and that I could definitely see. You know, from the Zerg's 3rd or 4th to the Protos's 3rd. Like, yeah, I get that. But Protoss still has the high ground on a map like this, still has chokes to work with. In this case, the wall off would be kind of annoying for a Zerg to really break through. And the better attack might be off to the right side. A little more. A concave, not going up a ramp. It's also usually later on in the game when they actually have an army to defend. So Silky is going to attack, not with any banelings, not with a actually that big of an army, to be honest. Only 20 up from his opponent. It's not that convincing for a ZvP. But he's going to try and tear down some of this production. That's certainly one of the downsides of trying to produce a wall. An extra handicap for the Zerg army is that you might lose your production. Couple force will try to go down to help outs. There are now some banelings available, but this side of the attack didn't go so hot. Good stasis trap from DisK. But Silky isn't just getting stuck on an attack. I mean, I was just talking about how that supply didn't even really look that convincing, so I wasn't expecting very much from that attack. Well, there's a reason for that. He didn't put everything into upgrades and an all-in on 60 drones. Silky's the 5 bases, 80 drones, only just now working on +2 melee, and is going up to a hive and a spire, which is something that DisK really needs to worry about. Two plus 2 equals 4? Source? Hello? Find me one scientifically credible source, alright? Eternal Empire. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think of that. That is crazy. I could not think of that name. But yes, that's what I was trying to talk about. DisK's Zealot run-by is not working so hot here. I mean, no Warp Prison will really complicate things. One attack is kind of supposed to be easy to deal with in StarCraft 2. DisK is more focused on getting himself up defensively, which he has done, but he probably would be feeling, okay, that wasn't a very strong attack, there's gotta be something else here. And despite not playing very much in tournaments, I'm sure that they've played, even in maybe like scrims, to be honest, or definitely on the ladder, right? So he might also know that Silky is not afraid of going up to that hive. Some Zergs kind of are. They seem very hesitant to do so, but Silky apparently not. So he's already a little bit preparing for that, but trying to do a push here on just barely sub 150 supply, it definitely feels like more just like a, you build Banelings that have built Broodlords right now, please. Like, I'm trying to buy a little bit more time, trying to clear up some creep spread, and trying to make sure that your army is on your side of the map. Don't think DisK really has it in him to do an actual push, and I'm glad that he pulled that. Overlord does drop a couple Banelings, but even with +2, didn't get great many hits. A couple Banelings over here. Okay, this is awkward. They don't see each other, that's so... okay, well, eventually something will happen there. Overseer's gonna get taken out. Sees that there is the ability to make Tempest and Carriers, but we kind of have to go into a touchy discussion, touchy subject, alright? We're not talking about team leagues again, but we're gonna be talking about ZvP late game balance. Now, this is also a subject that we should really talk about because of the recent patch changes, which... give me a second, I will go into if they do not kill each other. 5th base is gonna have to be cancelled. Looking for one good storm here. At the very least, DisK is gonna be able to get a kill on Silky's base too. So kind of a tit for tat. I think you know where I'm trying to go with the late games discussion, but seriously, it looks like we're gonna have an attack, so I'm just waiting. Waiting. You're not gonna do it? Okay, thanks guys. So the High Templars now outrange Abducts, I believe is what changed, right? I don't think it's actually much of a solution to ZvP's late game problems, or I should say PvZ's late game problems, if I'm being honest. It seems like Protoss is the one that needs help here, but it is something. The real problem, like really one of the core reasons why ZvP has flip-flopped between looking really good for Protoss or really good for Zerg has been off the High Templar. They have Storm, they have Feedback, they're pretty good. Storm, maybe less so as the game goes on. You get into discussions about, like, focus firing and, you know, Banelings and try and take them out type thing now. But Feedback, right? So Feedback used to kill a lot of things. Like, straight up kill them. Feedback, you die instantly. Now it doesn't do that to basically anything. It has to be in the red before Feedback actually kills a Spellcaster, a Medevac, a Viper. Which really puts the resource trade, you know, very inefficient for Protoss, actually, now that they don't kill anything with one shot. Before, killing one shot looked really BS, but now they don't kill one shot, it looks really difficult for Protoss, so it's really hard to balance. At the very least, taking out the ability to grab your Mama Ship away should be helpful. I don't really know if it's going to be that helpful. I'm not even talking about Mama Ships in this fight right here. It's just a couple of Broodlords to be annoying, and then still a mass Ling, Baneling, Hydra army on the ground, so... it's not actually that scary of a composition, I would say, to a maxed out Protoss army like this if it didn't have the high ground right now. The fact that it has the high ground is actually just a little bit annoying for DisK to actually move in here. Despite having a very accomplished army. He's got a couple of carriers that can click the Broodlords down. He's got a lot of Archons that can kind of A-move a little bit into the Banelings. And of course he has Storm. He's got Guardian Shield, like he's got the works here. There's actually not much more he can do to add on to this army other than just continue adding on carriers and upgrades. Silky, no Vipers, no Infestors yet, he is getting Neural Parasite. And only like a decent number of Broodlords. But as the game goes on, I can almost assure you that that will increase. DisK finally finds an opportunity to go up that ramp and combat the army on a literally more even surface. And that works out well, gets the kill on that base. And I don't think Silky will be too... yeah, I don't think he'll find this base easy to grab. He might actually be able to, but it shouldn't be easy. Blink is available, so of course blinking forward and trying to take out the Broodlords is one way to deal with them, especially if the carry numbers aren't high enough to deal with the Corruptors, of which they are not. So many Corruptors available. Need that Storm, need those Archons to help take care of that, but the Archon numbers have gone on a little bit. Not a cotton ball stuck in the back of the Stalker and Immortal army. By the way, the Immortal is not too helpful anymore. They could probably stand to die. But the Archons need to be available to stop exactly what we just saw. Every time the Corruptors think they can get a hit on that carrier, they need to be hit by the Archons. And that's going to look a lot better for DisK. So far, so good, I would say, for the Protoss. If the 5th base, I think I called it 4th previously, the 5th base could get up on either side, either direction. Without that 5th base, I'm starting to feel a little more worried, but DisK finally getting some harassment into the main and natural here. Lots of DTs just walked across the map, walked across all that creep spread without being noticed, and go into a lot of the production, actually, of his opponent. I mean, obviously production being larva, but technology, the Baneliness could go down, the Greater Spire could go down, and Silky has to send something back to deal with that. And as he continues to make a bigger and better air army of Broodlord and Corruptor, the less mobile his army gets. So these run-bys will always be a threat. Queen's actually trying to guard the ramp on the high ground. Managed to scare away the DTs, who did go for the Spore Crawler and Hatchery, and now going to grab the Hydralisk Den. That's not really the best thing to grab, though. I mean, we're all working away from the Hydras, but Silky thinks it's, you know, maybe not necessary, but good to go ahead and replace that. He's probably right. He certainly has the bank to replace a lot of these tech structures. Shield Overcharge. Only works so well if the shield battery overcharge is the one that's being hit, so Lings with adrenal glands are still going to rip and tear through the buildings and the zealots. They're not fully upgraded, they're all missing Carapace, but they got +3, they got adrenal glands. That lack of Carapace is a bit of a problem for the Lings, but if we're talking about, again, the ever-increasing number of Broodlords, the Broodlings, I mean, we're never going to talk about their Carapace, right? The point is, the Broodlings have +3 on the ground and +2 as a projectile, working on +3. Silky's really been just driving home the end game here. And he's done a pretty good job of it, but DisK has held on as well. Pretty good job of that. Mothership is on the way, and we'll see if she actually survives. If not, prepare your 400 spam. Because motherships are kind of laughable. I honestly want them to bring back Vortex just to have something cool happen with the mothership, because right now she's kind of lame. She lame and she died quick. No one wants that. The amount of creep spread is just unnerving because Silky has all the knowledge if you're on that creep, so clearing it up is a good thing to do. The DTs had actually brought so many of the queens back home that they're not out. Well, they weren't injecting for a while, and they also weren't out producing that creep. Mass Spore Crawlers in the main base. I think to really make sure this doesn't get killed, you would put a Overseer in surveillance mode, but that might be a little over the top. We've got 9 carriers versus 10 Broodlords. We have +2 ship weapons and a single shield for our Protoss, so the upgrades are looking better for Silky. Especially since that +2 projectile, the air flyer attack, that's what it's called, flyer attack for the Corruptors is obviously impactful for their one-shot potential against the carriers. Well, Silky will have to make sure to focus fire the Broodlords on top of the High Templars, or the Banelings, alternatively, I suppose. That's the better trade, and also make sure his Corruptors don't get bamboozled by the Interceptors. But for DisK, he's got to make sure he doesn't get surrounded. That is still a very large ground army. And eventually he's going to have to worry about abducts, but we really don't have anything so far. Silky gave himself all the options, with the Infestors being fully upgraded, and now they have Microbial Shroud, y'all! We might actually see it. I'm just kidding. We'll never see it. It's a terrible spell. If they just say... I'm guessing they just didn't really have the ability to change. Couldn't think of anything good, and they were running out of time, so. This is actually a surprising fight. I'm surprised that DisK took this fight, man. He blinked in underneath the Broodlords and got a lot of storms off on them, but lost the majority of his ground army. How's the air army looking? Lost 1 carrier, actually. He's still at 8 carriers, well, some of them are very low. And he did lose a lot of the ground army. We still have a couple of Archons alive to help against the 9 Corruptors. That number looking not nearly as good as it did previously. And DisK, I thought that was a bit of a bold move right there. Ended up being the correct move as he quickly replaces the Stalker count. That much he can afford for sure. While Silky is trying desperately to replace a very expensive late game army. In fact, he can't really do it. He's not remaxing. He's up to 160 supply. And that remax, the resupply is of Hydras, which aren't looking so hot. Detection only available from the Spore Crawlers, which honestly could die. Or if the mothership dies, I guess that also would work out. If it dies, the Corruptors actually got it so low and then stopped focus firing. Instead trying to focus fire on top of the carriers. I guess hoping or realizing that that might be the better trade, but it is not going to be a trade. It's going to be game. DisK takes game number 1 against Silky. Well done. Thank you, Ragnar Arquette, for that raid. Game number 2 on Eternal Empire, the map I couldn't remember. Whoops, it isn't. And surprising to me, in the bottom left, we have Silky, down 1.
Captain, we are being hosted.
Thank you very much, Bay Straight TV, for that host. I know you guys are now going to all go watch 300. So, have fun. Thank you very much for hosting this channel up. And we'll continue casting the rest of the qualifiers after this. This match leads into a qualifying match, so we're still on best of 3s, but as I was saying in the introductions, a little surprising to see Silky down 0-1 to this guy. In the upper right is the blue Protoss, he is DisK, and it was a late game ZvP that DisK took a very bold, very confident fight against late game Broodlord Infestor Hydra Baneling, and won, actually, very convincingly. He was up 70 supply by the end of the game. I say it's surprising because I went over a little bit of their history with my chat, so I'll do it again for you guys out there. That Silky he's kind of taken the mantle as one of the more promising up-and-comers of North America. Jon Snow used to be that guy, and Silky has gotten better than Jon Snow as Jon Snow has gotten a real-life job and done real-life person things. And just looked to be getting better and better. He's always been like a really dependable Zerg, I would say, kind of like Jon Snow, but just didn't really like hit those highs. And it's actually really sucky because at one point he was even a bit of the, I don't know, like he was just the person people would point to when they were like, what, you went Silky in the top 16 herder, and it's like, okay. So I'm glad that he's actually like kind of, I don't know if he's on top of the NA scene, but he's doing really well. And then DisK is still definitely one of those guys that like you just really don't hear a lot about. Really, I think has a lot to prove still, and did recently get 0-3'd by Silky in the tournament. The only tournament they've played, actually. And I say recently because time is a concept that I just I don't understand anymore. I should not have said recently. That was actually back in December. I don't know why, but for a second I thought that we were still in like March, and that's just clearly wrong. So yeah, time is a concept, alright? Recently isn't technically wrong. But yeah, 7 months ago, DisK did get 0-3'd, but that is a very long time to talk about their individual performances. So maybe I shouldn't be as surprised as I am, but I think what was the most surprising was just how confidently DisK took that late game PvZ. That was pretty impressive. A lot of Protoss players are still pretty scared about going to ZvP on purpose. Like, if you get there because you're trying to stop it and it doesn't get stopped, what are you going to do? But DisK didn't try to really stop Silky before he got to Broodlord Infestor. Or, sorry, just Broodlord. No Infestor. He just kind of went with him. And it ended up working out alright. So kudos. But game 2, a whole new world. A whole new map. And I know Silky still wants to get to that qualifying match. There's going to be 2 more chances for either one of these guys to get qualified in the future, past this tournament. But I said Silky. I thought Silky would be one of the guys to do so. It's not like this was the easiest bracket. People are probably going to, as I said in the beginning of this broadcast, people are going to be looking towards Namshar and TLO to be the shoo-ins here. And I think that's fair. I just think that they also could be a bit of an upset. As far as the other two, though, I was like, yeah, okay, Silky and Masa is usually a good pick just because Masa is so good at tournaments, basically. Maybe his actual mechanical skill is, like, kind of off, depending on how much he plays, but he's just really good. I don't know. I could see a lot of these guys actually getting through. Nina still playing as well, facing Jon Snow. I think she could do it. And she would be facing either Juggernaut, Jason, or Mage. Like, yeah, as long as she defeats Jon Snow, I think she would actually qualify. I think TLO is actually okay. I think he's actually kind of safe. Vindictive vs. Epic would have been a fun TVT. Oh, and then they face Masa? Yeah, the TVT against Masa, that could be an upset. I don't know. My point was that I thought Silky was going to win. Apparently DisK has something to say about that, or to qualify, rather. And that there's a lot of players who I would say are around each other's skill level. At least close enough that in a tournament setting it could be different than in their ladder experiences. So we had a pylon go down to a very small Ling attack. Not a super big deal. In fact, it's favorable for DisK. This is the only thing he's lost so far, while killing a bit of this or that. Robo down first, but very quickly in the Twilight Council and Forge, in a very typical macro setup here on the biggest map we have, as far as rush distance, but also like side to side. It's got a lot of bases. Still think it's 2011. I still think 10 years ago was the 90s, so, you know. Pretty screwed.
Twitch Prime sub received.
The thing is, Zerg has to kill it first, or they just lose the fight. I don't think that's true. If you don't yoink, you get points. I will say it's true just so we continue saying that phrase, so I'm okay with that. No, I don't think it's necessarily because the mothership adds that much. It does make it scary that if your overseers get target fired, they die. Because obviously you can't see the rest of the army. But I think it's just more that it's the easiest thing to take out of the equation. Like if you are confident that you will have detection, if you have 6 overseers, then killing the mothership doesn't really have to happen first. But it is the biggest, most expensive thing that is easily targetable to deal with. It used to be more of a dynamic. Oh, thank you, CK Walsh, for the 8-month resub. A wise man once said, you don't need a parachute to go skydiving. You need a parachute to go skydiving twice. Yeah, that's funny. Anyways, the mothership used to have more of a dynamic, right? Not the vortex, which, sure, yeah, that did exist. But rather that it was really important that you kept your High Templar hidden as you roamed the map so that it could go a little bit farther out and kill the Viper that was looking for abducts on your mothership, on your carriers, on everything else, right? But that dynamic doesn't really seem to happen that much more anymore. Like, storms obviously can affect an engagement. It did affect the last engagement in the last game. It just doesn't seem to be the main concern anymore. Banelings usually take care of it. Or they can't reach the Broodlords, so they don't die. This is a bit awkward. Silky was actually setting up for an attack. He might be getting a devastation a bit behind this, but he is ready to rumble. 76 drones going on to 5 bases. He was ready to attack. Not necessarily an all-in. He's just like he's at the point where he can start building army. Nothing but army. DisK was not expecting the attack because that max out happened pretty damn quickly. Sorry, not max out, but rather building of the army happened very quickly, and I don't blame him. This is a pretty quick attack for someone who is also macroing like a boss back at home. So the sentries got caught. They were forced to be recalled. At least they could recall at least some of them. And at least he is going into Colossus, which with the wall, with the ramp, we'll be able to hold, at least for now. But we have 20 Banelings moving on the left side. Stasis traps are prepared, though. DisK, oh, okay, one's going to get popped. Oh, both of them got popped by the same Banelings. Oh, that's a bummer. That is a bummer. Stalker is still a pretty good unit to have if you can spread them. If you have force fields as well, which DisK did, unfortunately lost a Colossus to the corrosive bile on the right side just because he was microing in 2 different places. Shield batteries aplenty will certainly help against this. It looks like the Colossus is in a little bit of trouble, kind of derps around a little bit, but does have the safety of the high ground, so it should be able to provide consistent damage. If only it had a buddy, then be looking a lot more convincing. Banelings finally do roll into the 3rd base, but thanks to the wall off here, it'll take a little bit longer to, and only get 7 probes. A couple more should just be killed before they do very much. Good force field as well. And what started off very, very scary is starting to be handled, but handling is not going to be good enough. Silky is up the supply, and yes, that's not the most efficient supply, but it's still something that can absolutely threaten DisK, as well as protect Silky as he goes up to a Hive and a Greater Spire once again. So DisK has to worry about surviving and any potential counter or, you know, his own tech up into anti-Broodlord carriers, as was his choice. Having to replace the semi-score might have been a little bit difficult there. He is trying to build Stalkers, he is trying to replace Sentries, but it's finally ready to go again. Looks like a Stasis Trap kind of helped out against the Ravagers. Oh, we have a Disruptor in the mix too. Not that it got a great shot. Just working still on that single oh, poor Disruptor. I don't know what happened there, but it got caught in the rest of the army. The Banelings roll through, crash into everything. Once you blink back, the rest of the army's like, why though? But why? The Stalker's the only thing protecting us. Sorry, guys. Colossus looks like it'll go down as well, or maybe not. That one clutch force field once again with that pylon on the Nexus, saving that Colossus. That is pretty darn clutch. And at least a lot of the Stalkers did end up living because they ran away from their buddies, ran away to safety. Warping in more of the Stalkers, too, trying to get the best trade for his buck. Didn't really work out too well there. You want to be able to chase down some of these Ravagers that try to leave, but then you realize that it might be an overextension, and he was probably right about that. Silky was reinforcing, but Silky doesn't actually have the greatest of upgrades. I said this wasn't all in because his economy looks so great, but one thing that Silky did sacrifice to do this was any upgrades. He's got +1 melee just now on the way. So he'll have +1 melee around the same time he has Adrenal Glands. That's not usually what you want to see. So that is something worth considering as DisK finishes up at least his +2, but it's not like his upgrades are that amazing either. A lot of his chronos had to go into, well, gateways and robo production, obviously, to save his life. Another Baneling drop is ready to go, as the main focus is on the 4th base. He actually just pulls the probes away, realizing they're going to die anyways, and that is absolutely the correct call. Force fields come down as he has replaced the sentry numbers, but he is starting to run low on the sentry energy. Is it going to be enough? It's enough to save his army, it looks like, but the Nexus does go down, and once again force a blink back to save at least some of his Stalkers, loses him some of his sentries. Always a difficult decision, that one. +2 is finally going to finish, and he is this time going to commit to a bit of a counter, trying again to specifically usually grab the Ravagers. You know, they're usually the things that the Zerg make sure ends up escaping. They're expensive, they slow to build, but he's not really able to get any revenge here. Disruptor count has grown a little bit, and by grown I meant up to 2 after losing the first one. The Baneling drop didn't get a lot, but it did get something. And DisK is still trying to replace that 4, so it's definitely a better trade for Silky, who's now on 6 bases, 84 drones. And the only disadvantage for Silky is that he doesn't have a +2. It's the only disadvantage. Things aren't looking great for DisK, but if he can continue to take better trades, like those last 2 fights, as far as the army goes, right, then maybe he can make something work here. As we can see, the resources lost is very favorable for him. Typical Protoss versus Zerg stuff, but actually just a lot. Maybe 3,000 would be like, yeah, that's pretty good. That's 6,000 difference. That's pretty good. Pretty good. 1 sentry is like, so what do I do here? Okay, I die. A couple more. We're trying to be warped in to protect this side of things, but the 3rd base is going to be under attack. The 4th base is under attack, barely saved by the force fields, but the natural is also about to have more Banelings rolling through. You know, the Stalkers will end up saving the day as they blink forward aggressively to take out those remaining units, but 22 probes have gone down. DisK still has 105 army supply to Silky's 112, so Silky would have to be very careful about actually going up to Broodlords, and he's not even going to try that. Just get a kill on the 4th Nexus and return home to defend against DisK. Basically all in. He's basically just throwing his hands up and saying, F this sucks, but I got an army I can work with. So that army supply, 30 supply in the lead, and with an upgrade lead, but only for like 20 more seconds here. He's got to make sure not to get surrounded by 50 Banelings. Silky's about to have 49 plus... Okay, he's about to have 59. to do math on stream. He's gonna have 59 Banelings to roll. This is a majority Baneling army, and there's not enough splash here to actually make it work. If the Disruptors get amazing hits, then that would truly save the day, but I don't think they will. Even the reinforcing Disruptors having a tough time actually making things work. Lings with Adrenal Glands, with +2 as it finishes right now, jumping on top of a cannon. Nothing to be said about that. All those probes are going to die, and DisK is down to his last army. Absolutely all in here against what is now going to be 79 Banelings. 79 Banelings! Even with Storm, I don't think you take care of that many Banelings. And now the Vipers are here to try and abduct those Disruptors away from any miraculous hit. Oh my god, this could be a good one, this could be a good one. Oh no, he went for the wrong side! Okay, he's still got a decent shot, but it's not gonna be decent enough. Banelings crashing in from the south side, left and top side. All the force fields go down, but the Colossus actually breaks the force field to the left side. Not that it really mattered, I think. There's just way too many units here, and Silky could definitely reinforce this army. DisK tried his best to do an all-in, but it's not gonna work out. GG. Silky not just gonna go ahead and go up to Broodlords. He's gonna play a lot more aggressive of a game and win it. And damn. That was scary. I mean, DisK didn't do a terrible job defending. But it kind of all started losing with the sentries for sure. That did not set him on the right path to a good defense. But for the situation he found himself in, I was actually pretty impressed. It just wasn't good enough. So we're going to go to a game number 3 on the biggest map we have now, actually. Eternal Empire is big, but I think actually Ice and Chrome is bigger. Yeah, I think so. I'm going to double check that. In the bottom left is the red Zerg. He is Silky for Psystorm. And in the top right, we have the blue Protoss Root DisK. Ladder maps, Eternal Empire.
Received. Apparently you are doing something right, Captain.
Oh no, okay. No, I was right when I was talking about Eternal Empire. Eternal Empire is still the biggest map, but Ice and Chrome at 37-second rush distance is still pretty big, and obviously is a large map side to side as well. Lots of bases to take. Thank you, TJ Jackson, for the 4-month resub. Roses are red, violets are blue. The only additional pylon I need is you. How many qualifying spots are there for NA? 12 from the qualifiers. So there's 3 qualifiers with 4 qualification spots each. And then there's more qualification spots for Europe, I'm pretty sure. And not because I did a video on the format or I looked at the format, but because I remember all the drama involved with such a format. It actually wasn't that much drama. I think North Americans have kind of gotten used to being what's a good way to put this? Pushed down a little bit. I can't think of the perfect phrase right now because there's many reasons behind the decisions of who to give more spots to, who to give more money to, and blah, 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 but yeah. Previously, they had to share a lot of their qualification spots with, the Australian scene or the Taiwanese scene, and that was always a little bit like, alright, but, now they just get less anyways. So does other scenes, though. Australia's down to 1 qualified player, I think. So, pretty harsh. DisK actually going for a proxy here. Proxy Stargate. Most Zergs definitely have the regular Stargate anti-Spore Crawler, anti-Oracle Spore Crawler timing down, but as far as a proxy, that, 10-second difference is actually quite big. That's also 10 seconds that the Oracle is shooting without having been shot at if the Queen is out of position. Queen's usually not out of position, but she's also not very good at killing the Oracle quickly, so it can be pretty brutal. Silky gets a full scout into the main base. It does not have an overlord to the natural. Or not anymore. One of those things, but... Oh, Ling, I think, actually scouted this. So, doesn't know that the Stargate isn't here. Unfortunately. Or maybe kind of figuring it out? See, I missed the timing of this scout, so... The thing is, if it was going to be walling off, if it was truly the second structure to be built, which a Stargate usually is, it would have been built a long time ago. So, yeah, I think Silky did actually figure that out by the main base scout, so... He sent a Ling immediately around the map and just coincidentally found this very, very quickly. If the Ling had gone up to the top left first, it would have been problematic, but it didn't make much sense for a proxy to be in the top left at it. This was definitely the most reasonable, expected area to find a proxy. So he finds it. The Spore Crawler was prepared. Queen being in the best position possible also helps out a lot. And unfortunately, the proxy Stargate is just going to now be depowered. Good news is, it's still got 2 oracles, and as far as the Starcraft 2 game goes, usually the most you expect from a Stargate is producing 2 oracles, and usually a Phoenix, sure, but it's not the worst thing to lose that when your units are already produced. Yeah. Thank you, The Wave the Gun, for the 15-month resub. Did I spy a San Francisco themed shirt there? Yes, but you buy anything from Old Navy for like $12. That looks nice, so. It's not my fault that people like California as opposed to Ohio or Tennessee or something. Alright, so just going into a quick third. Really not too weird of a game, other than the location of the Stargate. Robo was produced very, very quickly. I actually thought this might be like an Archon follow-up, but obviously the Twilight Council wasn't put down with it. So, just quicker than expected in the Robo follow-up. And then Twilight Council and Forge, charge, and +1. Stalker is here to boot that Overlord out. Silky, ooh, he's the one that's really mixing it up here. The Oracles didn't do very much, but the Spire could do a whole lot if gone unscouted, and it's unlikely the Oracles will randomly get to the natural on this side. Maybe if they head to the main and then like try and skirt the left side because they're in a hurry or something like that, they could see the Spire, but it's doubtful, and you don't have adepts out on the map anymore because Lings are just going to be able to collect them, find them, and surround them and collect them, so... Not likely that Spire is going to be scouted. What generally happens is that there's other things that scout it. So either double hallucinations go down and they go right to the natural, right? That can absolutely happen, although not in this game. Or the oracles see like, okay, that's all 6 gases, it's gonna be really quick, why don't I see any roaches, where are your number of lings, why are there no upgrades? Like, those types of things start kind of rattling around in your head, and you go, oh yeah, hey, we don't Spire. But without that double hallucination Phoenix scout, it's very difficult to both scout all the things that aren't happening as well as immediately think about a Spire, especially if you haven't dealt with a Spire in a while. And most ZvPs aren't based around a Spire, right? You play 12 games of ladder ZvPs, no one ever goes for a Spire. The 13th game they do, you're like, oh yeah, huh, right. Feel like that might be happening here. DisK, I mean, he's been pretty good about going into Blink. Okay, well, there's the scout and the mutas. He's been good about going into Blink after charge, of course, but that's still after charge. And that it will be finishing up. The mutas have been scouted. He does start to throw down a couple of cannons, but they are quite late. You really want them done by the time the mutas show up. Because even though 10 mutas isn't the scariest, you can warp in 7 stalkers after all, so you can deal with them. You can't chase them very well, and that's the real problem here. The Archon's actually getting stuck outside of the wall, 13 probes already going down, and seriously, 1 cannon would have solved a bunch of problems here. Probably half the amount of probes would have gone down if there were cannons at every mineral line. And this has already kind of paid for itself, especially if it grabs any of these sentries. No Guardian Shield is being popped, which helps immensely against mutas, and unfortunately, while it is popped, it just was favorable towards the mutas. There's just more of the mutas than there were of anything else from the Protoss, as the Archons were stuck behind the gateways. And unfortunately, DisK might have looked really good against late-game Silky. He's not doing so hot against mid-game aggression Silky. trying to replace his probe count, but Silky is not... He's no slouch. This is not gold, where they could easily have microed their mutas perfectly and never produced anything back at home. Like, nope, Silky went up to 80 drones, up to 5 bases, getting at least one upgrade here as DisK is forced to hold off on his +2, and with 15 more, 16 probes, 17 more probes dying, that actually could have led to a tap out. Can almost guarantee if this was a ladder game, he would have tapped out. But tournament life on the line. Said that correctly, right? Tournament life on the line. You just try and all in. You try and all in from this point. There's no going into any impulse crystals. There's not even getting blink in this particular game for DisK, and he is just going to hope that his army is better than Silky's. Unfortunately, it isn't. 20 supply down isn't the worst place for Protoss to be up against a Zerg army, but even as Centrifugal Hooks finishes, even if that wasn't done, I would still give this to Silky. You can also reinforce. He could lose this army, lose the 4th hatchery, and still be in a great position to win this game, as the mutas are still doing damage. Archons on the front line do tank a lot of the banelings, but there's still so many more. Trying to pull back, trying to split. Still has that War Prism alive at the very least, and an Oracle even helping out here means that some of the army will survive, but DisK can't really reinforce. If he was reinforcing 7 Stalkers at a time with Blink and +2, oh hell yeah, I'm a believer. But he's not got any upgrades, he's not got Blink, he can barely afford 3-4 more Zealots, and this is looking quite desperate. The mutas actually going to come back home, and that War Prism, which was alive to give him a little bit of hope, is now finally gone, and Silky will advance to the qualifying match. As I expected, but I started to doubt a little bit. I did. DisK actually looked quite good in his ZvP.